The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Faster my good afternoon. Welcome to Mannin Line on Max Radio. Open line through until 1 today. Next week, couple of specials on Monday as part of our halfway through the administration series. Ramsey's MHKs, Laurie Hooper and Alex Allenson. Dr. Allenson and Laurie Hooper will be on Mannin Line. So if you have a point to make about Ramsey, your opportunity, if they are your constituency MHK, to have a chat. Of course, they did have a surgery last Saturday, so you may have seen them there. But Laurie Hooper and Alex Allenson are on this coming Monday, and next Wednesday we're live at St Ninian's School with the students of St Ninian's talking about, well, they'll be talking really about whatever's important to them. And at the same day, it's very nice because the Queen's decided to arrive. Camilla will be in Douglas this coming Wednesday, pronouncing that Douglas is a city, and of course we'll be live with that. So we may be leaving St Ninian slightly early just to make way for Queen Camilla. But anyway, all that's to come. It's down to you now, whatever you want to chat about. Did you hear the story about Laurie Hooper? A consultation on whether the bishop should retain the right to vote in Tynwald shows a slight majority are in favour of removing the vote. 51% in favour, 49 against. And meaning no change, of course. Onken MHK Rob Callister's already given his reaction to the document, releasing this morning, showing it says there isn't a strong desire or a significant outcry for any changes to be made. Now, do you have any thoughts on this? By all means, do get in touch. And lots of comment yesterday about the proposed assisted dying legislation. And David's on now. Hi, David.
Hi, Andy. Just a reference to David Ashford. Now he's the guru for housing regarding the news item this morning where all the people who have private accommodation and rent it out have to register. So my question goes out to the people there and yourself is, shouldn't local authorities have to register as well? They look after local authority accommodation. And should Mr. Ashford himself have to register with all the government houses that they run and manage?
Everybody asks this. Why is it? Why doesn't the government have to do this? If private landlords are under the cosh, what's the difference?
Yes, and that's the issue I've got. If you pass a law, the law applies to everybody, whether the governor or the guy that sweeps the streets. That's what I'm actually saying, Andy, is
okay.
When these things are out there, they should apply for everybody. The law applies to everybody unless you have an exemption. And the only exemptions I know is if you're royalty or Donald Trump. Okay.
Thanks for calling today. 12:10. As far as we know, Donald Trump doesn't have any property on the Isle of Man, but we're willing to be put straight. Any thoughts on this? And the whole situation with rental properties, all interlinked really. If you're looking for somewhere to rent on the Isle of Man, or you know somebody who is, it's not easy. And it is also expensive. And this comes back to the Island Plan, attracting 15,000 more people. Obviously, there are implications with, less tax than in the UK, although NI may be slightly higher. The fact that you have to pay a lot to rent somewhere can often impact on your decision. So any thoughts on this? And as you say, as David says, the whole point about public housing, social housing, being kind of exempt from the landlord's registration. A consultation on the bishop. Let's get back to this. Laurie Hooper's got this consultation out. He said the majority that he sees of his numbers, 51% in favour, 49% against, Laurie Hooper, who is behind the proposals, told Manx Radio that those voting in support of the bishop's right to vote are still likely to be overrepresented. Still likely to be overrepresented. I wonder what your thoughts are.
Mr. Collis's response is exactly what I expected from those who don't support the bill and who insisted on me going out and consulting. It was Mr. Collis's amendment, I think, that insisted I go out and consult. I have done that. I have gone out and consulted. Clearly, the consultation did not produce the response that he and others wanted, so they will ignore it. That's my view. That's what I thought they would do from the outset. I thought if this didn't come back with the answer they wanted, they would start saying, well, it doesn't matter anyway. I would argue that with nearly 3,000 responses, that is one of the largest responses to a consultation that we've seen on the island. There is clearly an interest in this, and even though there was some significant lobbying against the bill, the consultation still, even in the face of that, came out in the positive with the consultee responses supporting the bill. So for someone who called for a consultation, who said, go out and talk to the public, I've done that. The public have told you what they think. Really, it's incumbent on us to listen, I would argue.
Well, that was what I wanted to ask you next. Of course, like you say, it was Mr. Collis's idea for this consultation to take place. But do you personally think it was worth it, the time and effort, and seeing the results in front of you now?
I honestly don't know, if I'm honest. I didn't really support the going out to consult in the first place because I knew there would be a lobbying effort on the part of people against the bill, because people who I think are who don't want to see change are normally more invested in these things. So I wasn't expecting the results to come out as they did. I thought there'd be a concerted lobbying effort that would have pushed the narrative and pushed the numbers into the negative. And equally, because that then wouldn't have been representative of the Manx public, I thought, actually, what is the point going out and consulting when you almost know that the outcome is going to be weighted towards those not in favour of doing a thing? I also had a very strong feeling that even if I were to consult, those who were against the bill in the House of Keys still wouldn't support it anyway. So I don't think this will change anyone's mind, for example. In which case, what is the benefit in going out and consulting? Now, if I genuinely believed that members of Keys will look at this report and go, actually, okay, yeah, I was wrong, the public do sort of support this, we should carry on, then I think it will have been a worthwhile exercise. But I honestly think that the vote was 13-11, I think, in the Keys the last time round. I think it'll be 13-11 again. I think it will be the same people voting in the same way, and I think this was just an attempt by those people who don't really want to see change to try and stall, if I'm honest.
What are your thoughts on this? I mean, do you care? Do you think most people care about this, about removing the vote of the bishop from Tynwald? Mr. Hooper doesn't say the bishop would be thrown out of Tynwald. The bishop would sit there, but like the Attorney General and the Lieutenant Governor, would observe, could contribute, but just doesn't have a vote. Now, do you think this is right and proper? Do you agree with it? Do you disagree with it? Do you think it's meddling with the Constitution? Do you think... I remember in September 21 in the election, I can't remember anybody mentioning this. So this has come relatively out of nowhere. But Mr. Hooper has the perfect right to introduce this sort of legislation. So if you've got any thoughts, by all means get in touch. Thank you, Rosemary, who said housing is a problem everywhere, not just the Isle of Man. In Ireland, a double room in a house in Cork was advertised at £750 a month plus bills. Now, it may have been a very lavish room, we don't know, but and Cork is gorgeous, £750 a month plus bills for a double room in a house. The property situation on the Isle of Man continues to excite comment. I mean, we are building houses. The trouble is that a lot of people, and particularly people who wish to get on the property ladder, can't find the key to the ladder. They can't get on there. The bottom rung is far too high for them to get on. And so a lot of the houses are snapped up, taken perfectly legitimately by investors for the private rental market. The consequence is that stops people, the people who want to, getting on the housing market, onto the ladder. Is that a concern for you, your family? Do you think it should be a concern for the government? And if so, what do you think we should ever do about it? Here's Juan now. Hi, Juan.
How are you today, Andy?
Very well, thanks, because it's Friday.
It's Friday, another weekend up on us already. So, and I hear the Queen's coming. I'm going to miss her. Now, I just wanted to clarify: is because we're living in a woke world at the moment? Is it a drag queen that's coming, or is it the Queen?
No, it is the Queen. It is definitely the Queen. That could possibly get you a seat in the Tower of London, Juan.
Well, I just wanted to know if it was a drag queen or whether it was the Queen. I don't know. I'm probably heading for that seat anyway, Andy. Never mind. So yeah, I won't disappear off my subject with the housing, but I just picked up on the on one of the news threads, I think, from Manx Radio. You've now got to have a parking disc to go to Palatine Health Centre because of the uncle with the roundhouse. That's quite interesting, isn't it? So now we've got another form of bureaucracy involved, and someone's going to have to sit down and sort all that out.
Well, it's only a 30-minute parking outside Palatine, and what they're saying, if you go over, you've got to get a letter from the doctor to say you went over, and that'll stop you getting a fine. So, as you say, perfectly straightforward.
Perfectly, yeah. So you get that attached to your prescription, and then you can put that in. So another level of someone somewhere at our cost is going to have to sit down and sort out the legitimate parking fines from the ones that are not legitimate. It's a lot. I mean, the joined up government here is fantastic, isn't it? We're doing really, really good. Listening to Brian yesterday and Tony B and John, and we're all saying the same stuff repetitively. I mean, that's all we've been saying repetitively. Everything that we've been saying. And is government doing anything about it? Doesn't seem like it, does it? I like Brian. I've always listened to Brian, and I thought Brian's very good. He was in the commissioners in Onken, and he has a lot of valid points there. Now, I just wanted to jump on to the Courtney Heaving situation that appeared, and I've been looking at the posts and the threads, and I'm looking at the lambusting that Tim Glover got for saying "take care" on a tweet to talk Courtney Heading. And I'm thinking, where is society going when someone can't actually say "take care" to someone? Where are we heading with society there, Andy? I remember going back to the COVID situation, which is all linked to this, when Bill Shimmons actually stood up as a lone voice saying that government was wrong in not bringing people back to the island, and he got absolutely slated by the public. And Tim Glover, I think, is doing a fair job as a politician at the moment. And for someone to be slated about he should resign for saying take care to someone, as a society, where are we going?
Well, it was, he said that he was saying take care to Courtney Heading's supporters. So, but as you say, you could split hairs over this whole thing. But certainly, Dr. Allinson was quite forthright in what he had to say about it. So, we are where we are, Juan.
We are where we are. I'd just like to make this point as well, being a devil's advocate on this one for a bit. I'd just like to make this point, and Courtney, unfortunately, Courtney is very passionate about what he thinks. Courtney is not a stupid person. Just remind me, what was his position in government, Andy?
He was an advisor, I think, to the Department for Enterprise.
Was it not with DHSC?
No, I can't remember. He had a company, I think, called Bladen Jets. That was certainly something.
He did indeed, but I'm trying to... Google seemed to have airbrushed his connection with government somewhere, because Courtney had a very, very well-paid job within government, and that's the point that I'm getting at. He's not just an idiot that stands there on a corner with a T-shirt on. He's got a point, and he's got a message, and he's quite an astute person if you've ever spoke to him. I'm not defending what's gone on and what he's done, and I think the sentence was 4 months and 4 months for unpaid fines, just to clarify, I think. But it's the point that Courtney is making, and if anyone studies and I'm talking factual here, the VAERS pie chart and all the other stuff on vaccine injuries and the amount of vaccine injuries on the COVID vaccine compared to any others. And if people want to study all this stuff, the sensitivity setting for the PCR was set at 45 on the Isle of Man, not 28. So it headed for more false positives. Courtney Heddens is speaking to people like Robert F. Kennedy, who, let me remind people, is standing for presidential election in America, Dolores Cahill. Courtney has spoken to lots of people, wrote 3 books and does a lot of podcasts, not just the silly guy that stands there on the corner. And I just want to put this out there, all these people who have got colds and coughs and everything that they can't get rid of now, maybe people want to scratch their head and look a little bit deeper into what's going on to understand the man's feelings. And when this comes to light, and I say when, not if, I just wanted to know who's actually there to respond to all this now. Who's left there? Howard Quayle, gone. Henrietta Hewitt, gone. Ranson, gone. Magson, gone. Will Greenhow, gone. No one left to answer the questions, is there? I'll leave it for there, Andy, and you have a good weekend. I'll speak to you next week.
Good to hear from you. Thank you, Juan, for that. This Juan was referring to, it was about Tim Glover, MHK. Tim Glover deleted a social media post after a backlash. He'd been asked to apologise after posting a tweet to a convicted stalker with the message, "Please take care." The post has been deleted. This is all about Courtney Hedding, who was jailed this week for sending incessant emails and tweets to the scientist who set up the PCR testing on the Isle of Man during the COVID pandemic. You can go on to check the story out. It's at manxradio.com. Thank you to Rosemary, who sent me a photo of the house in Holway, not the Holway, in Holway, 20 minutes drive to Cork, 15 minutes to Bandon, 15 minutes to Kinsale, and it's 750, that'll be euros presumably, in Ireland. Share Electricity is a house, that's the situation. You're sharing the house with a professional male in Galway, and £750 will get you that. Howard's on now. Hi, Howard.
Hello, Andy. Just listen to June there, and what I can't understand is what Palatine have done are protecting their car park. We have the controversy of the roundhouse next door, accessibility, parking, and they have said that the car park at Palatine can be used at the quiet weekends. But people being people, and the controversy over the access to the roundhouse via the hospital roads, they're automatically going to come in from the east side of it, where you come in on the main road coming up through, and cut through and park in the Palatine car park and walk through to the roundhouse. Now that's the way people work, and they will do it. There's no two ways about it. So the genuine patient coming up, and that a lot of elderly people go up there, myself included, who would then be excluded by people deliberately parking in the Palatine car park.
How many spaces are there, Howard?
I'd say offhand, less than 40, I think. There's not a lot. There's some for the disabled, etc. there, but I would say about 40. But it backs onto the roundhouse. From what I'm led to believe, there's going to be a footpath, or there is a footpath that goes through. Now we know that various places, ShopRite put disc parking up in Uncan for a similar reason. People were coming up and parking. Tesco got notices down there, various other places. So this would be an ideal situation as a shortcut, and to save them having to bother going all the way around and find their way back into that car park. So Palatine, I know at times they have some queer ideas, but this is safeguarding what is a car park for the clinic. And as I say, although they did announce that the car park could be used at weekends when the clinic is quiet, people just won't adhere to that. They will want to get in and park and fill that car park up. and this is a deterrent more than a threat. It's something that will make people think, and they will have to have a genuine excuse or genuine reason for being in that car park at the normal clinic times.
This is just one of those things that, what do they call it? They call it in management speak, it's called pre-handling. It's where you foresee a problem and you can kind of make sure it doesn't happen rather than waiting for something to go wrong and then looking at each other. So what do you think should be done?
What they've done, it is and has been used as a car park for, well, as long as I can remember. I've always been on that clinic name, and my wife is too. My wife can't walk too far. She can't walk, but I like to get up there and get parked in there, drop it off, and, that's going to be used as a, well, I don't like to say the word, a rat run. And it's going to be swamped with cars because there's a nursery up there as well. There's a gymnasium and all sorts going into that place. I don't know what it's like inside. I've not been in. But this is the thinking of people. And you only have to look at the number of people who park on disabled spaces in town and in the various supermarkets, etc. The likes of Tesco, you see them drive into where the children's parking and old people's parking, and they go off up the road like Linford Christie. So this is the management of the clinic at Palatine looking after the interests of their patients. And would Ewan be the first to complain if he went up there on an appointment and couldn't get a car park because people were occupying the spaces there unfairly to go into the roundhouse? And that should have all been thought out. As you've just said, it's a management pre-thinking. So where was the management of the roundhouse and the commissioners pre-thinking their problem before it occurred? Because this building has been going on now, I'd say at least 2 years, 2.5 years. It's not something that's just popped up out of the blue. So all fair to the management of the Palatine Clinic. They're just looking after the interests of their patients.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Howard.
Take care. Bye now.
Have a good weekend. It's 29 minutes past 12. Just before 1 o'clock today, in fact, after Mannin Line, remember, Mondays and Fridays in our 60th anniversary year, we're going back into the archive just to take a look at things that have happened in the past. Now, we're back in 2001 after Mannin Line today. John Moss is going to be looking back at the introduction of the minimum wage on the Isle of Man, approved by Tynwald in 2001, and the Minister for Trade and Industry at the time will be on the air because he was interviewed then, David North, MHK. That is after Mannin Line today. Now, there was a message yesterday also about greenhouse gas, because the red arrows are coming now. A few people just wanted to know what the situation is about greenhouse gas and the red arrows. Half of the greenhouse gases come from methane, most of which is produced by cattle, says this correspondent. 500 million tonnes a year in the United States, same amount as volcanoes produce worldwide. So any chance of an FOI to find out how much greenhouse gas all the cows in our field are producing? Probably many more times, millions of times, says the correspondent, more than the red arrows in the TT. But nobody wants to get rid of cows. Also, cows produce a lot less methane than Tynwald. So get rid of the politicians. Says Dick. Save the planet. Oh, what would we do without politicians, Dick? Actually, I'm just checking my carbon footprint at the moment, and it's looking okay. Your Ramsey questions, by the way. Remember, I'll say Laurie Hooper and Alex Allenson are going to be in on Monday. We're talking about Ramsey, so if we can keep the questions to the Ramsey constituents, there's a lot going on in Ramsey, and the future of some of which was raised last Friday when we were live from Queen's Pier. But if you're in Ramsey or you have an interest, then by all means you can either drop a note at manninline@manxradio.com. You can record an answer phone message on 682-631 or take your chance on Monday live just after midday with Laurie Hooper and Alex Allenson.
Would you consider leaving a gift in your will to Hospice Isle of Man? As a charity, we need to raise millions every year just to continue providing our services. Your support means that we can give our care to all those who need it, when they need it, completely free of charge. If you're considering making a will or adding a hospice donation to your will, please give us a call to find out more on 672222. Every penny raised makes a huge difference to every individual and family who needs us. Thank you.
Spectrum Windows. If your house needs a new look and your windows let in rain, keep those cold breezes out and make it look like new again. Spectrum Windows, Spectrum Windows. Quality through and through. Great work guaranteed to you. Spectrum Windows, Spectrum Windows. Spectrum Windows.
I began to struggle with the stairs, but I didn't want to leave our family home. So my daughter told me about Acorn Stair Lifts and their new showroom in Douglas. I was able to try the stair lifts and find the right one for me and the home I love. They were so friendly. The whole process was hassle-free and they offered the whole package from installation to servicing. Choose the island's first choice for stair lifts. Acorn Stair Lifts, South Quay, Douglas.
Call Acorn Stair Lifts now on 672 414 or call into our Douglas showroom.
A new bed? What a great idea! Especially when Miller Chaps have such a superb range. From traditional springs with Hypnos luxury wool and natural fillings to latex and the famous Temper mattress. Choose from bed frames and storage divans of all types. With friendly staff happy to explain the range, special offers throughout and time to lie down and actually try the mattresses. When it's time for a good night's sleep, it's time to visit Miller Chaps of Ramsey.
Chris Pearson, the Sunday Chill Out.
We will meet on the other side of the world.
The Sunday Chill Out.
Take the chance to chill Sunday night from 7.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
27 minutes now before 1. Eric's on now. Hi, Eric.
Hi, Andy. Just wanted to ask a couple of questions from something that's happening this week or last week. When you first become disabled or infirm or you can't walk, the first thing you do if you're getting a mobility scooter, the first question you ask is, do I need a driving licence? And the answer is no. And does it need to be insured? No. Is it taxed? No. Is the car? No. It's classed as an invalid carriage. And now getting to the point where somebody who's been on a mobility scooter is going to be banned from driving for drunken driving or driving over the limit. How can you remove a licence of somebody when they don't need a licence?
Now, is this a case on the Isle of Man?
Yes.
All right. Well, let's not talk about it in.
Right.
We'll talk about it in principle. I think.
Well,
then
talk about it as something that happened 18 months ago. That
right.
Somebody did lose their license 18 months ago. In England, in 2019, the police had to withdraw all the charges against somebody who was using a mobility scooter and had been drinking, and they had to remove the charges because it's not legal.
Right, okay.
If you don't need a driving licence, how can they remove your licence? If you go out on your electric push bike tomorrow and have a couple of drinks and you get stopped, are you going to lose your car licence?
Well, no, I mean, that's a very interesting academic point and a point in law. Has it happened before on the Isle of Man?
Yes.
It has?
About 18 months ago.
Right, so there is a precedent.
Well, in that particular case, the person had stolen the mobility scooter.
Oh, I see.
And he was... I've forgotten how he worded it now, but the other thing is that the only people who can use mobility scooters are people with a disability or unable to walk very far, and this is exactly why the class is invalid carriages,
right.
Not motor vehicles. And like I've said, the first question, do you need a driving licence? No. So how can you take somebody's driving licence off them when they have not committed the offence?
Interesting point.
Well,
Okay.
Needs looking at.
All right, Eric, thanks.
Okay, thanks.
Cheers. Now it's 24 minutes before 1. Regarding the shortage of first-time buyer houses, why don't the government do... It's Mary in Ramsey. Why don't the government do what they did at Palati in Andrews in the 70s? They had government land that they sold in plots and gave the buyers a government mortgage to build a house or bungalow to their specification and affordability, and gave them a step on the property ladder. Surely the government has a big land bank that they could do something with. An initiative like that. Maybe perhaps you were a recipient of that in the north. It was Balaloch in Andrews in the 1970s. And palpably a good idea. Thank you, Mary. Thanks for raising that. A few years ago, there was a chap who was charged with being in charge of a bicycle. Presumably, Pete, you're saying, is that under the influence, found guilty and sent to prison? Don't know that. If it was a case, by all means, you can send me a link to that. And also, I got a message in from Carrie who just said, does the government's something called the mid-rent scheme still apply? The mid-rent scheme, I think it's a DOI thing, mid-rent initiative, which is for 12 months, and it basically looks at the merits of mid-rent housing as an option for housing assistance. They're called mid-rent properties, which will be rented on a short-term let for 12 months at a rent that will be 20% below market rate. The purpose of letting the properties at a reduced rent is to allow tenants who'd otherwise be paying a higher rent in the private sector to save some money each month towards a deposit in order to help them move on to purchase their own home, with or without the assistance of the government first-time buyer shared equity schemes. If the pilot proves successful and the tenants can demonstrate in the first year of rental that they found the use of the property to be beneficial towards saving towards buying their own home, the department may consider extending the existing tenancies for a further 12 months to a maximum of 2 years. Now, there are subject to a residency qualification, 5 years on the Isle of Man you have to have lived, and the applicant must be a current resident at the time, and also you can't have owned a property on the island before or anywhere else, and must also meet income criteria. For a single person with no children, $39,000 is the maximum income. For a couple with no children, $62,000, and for a single or couple with one or more children, it's £67,000. So, Carrie, I hope that helps. That's the mid-rent scheme that the DOI is currently operating. Thanks also. Oh, and thank you, Reg, you just said, can you tell me, is it true Queen Camilla's coming? Yes, she is. Douglas was given the accolade of being a city as part of the Queen Elizabeth II's Platinum Jubilee in 2 years, May 2022. So Camilla's presiding over a ceremony at Douglas City Hall next Wednesday, after which she'll unveil a commemorative plaque before meeting well-wishers. Then she's off to Government House, be introduced to a number of representatives from charities on the Isle of Man and community groups. So, and of course, we'll have reporters there. I'll be with the students of St Ninian's High School. Maybe they'll have an opinion on on royalty. But yes, and also a mention from, this is Peter, who we were talking about fluoridation earlier on this week. I'm not in favour of adding fluoride to our drinking water for a number of reasons. Firstly, I don't believe in blanket medication of the whole island's population when it'll be ineffective for the majority of the population. Second, I believe fluoride can best help teeth when they're being formed and growing, not when they're fully formed. Thirdly, says Peter, young children should be provided with fluoride tablets and encouraged by their parents to take the tablets. Fourth, parents should encourage their children to clean their teeth and not accept the child's objections and let them neglect their teeth, i.e. be a parent. If the child's toothbrush is introduced early enough and made to be fun, the child will continue to practice with toothpaste as they grow up. And number 5, fluoride varnish is very effective, as demonstrated by my daughter, says Peter, who is 50 years old, and my son, who's 48. Both had fluoride tablets and fluoride varnish treatment as young children, and between them have one filling. The prospect of fluoride fluoridize. Putting fluoride in our water has been with us for years. I mean, it really is. It's been 70 and more years that they've been talking about putting fluoride in the water. It seems to be being rejected every time it comes back. The public, it seems, simply don't want fluoride, a mass fluoridation. Anyway, and it just seems to keep coming back and back and back. You got any thoughts on this? Anything else as well? There are so much to talk about, including David. We were talking about public toilets and the lack of public toilets, and he told me there were 67 gents' toilets in the 1960s and 70s in Douglas. Do you remember where they are? Well, I know.
Andy Wint, the nation station, Manx Radio.
Have you been invited to take part in the Household Income and Expenditure Survey? It's one of the most important surveys for our island because the information you provide is vital data for our island's financial planning. It helps us calculate our VAT revenue from the UK. Plus, it gives us a better understanding of the financial strains on residents, so we can support those who are struggling. March is the last month you can take part. So visit gov.im/HIES now.
Today, Manx Petroleum keeps our island moving. For the drivers, for the school runners, for the deliverers, and the adrenaline seekers. Today and every day, the island's longest-serving distributor will be powering thousands of journeys with our premium road fuels. Manx Petroleum, always here for you. Fill up now or visit mp.im.
See what's in store now at Ramsey Garden Centre. We've spring and summer bulbs and seeds and plants for tubs and borders, plus onion and garlic sets, seed potatoes, spring planters and more, including azaleas, rhododendrons and roses, fruit trees, primroses and violas. There's something for gardeners young and old at Ramsey Garden Centre. And for exclusive offers, pick up a reward card today. Check on Facebook or call into Ramsey Garden Centre. Open 7 days a week on Albert Road.
When it comes to money, rainy days happen to us all. If you'd like to save for a rainy day, choose your local Manx Credit Union, where your savings stay in the local economy and go towards helping families and island residents on their own rainy days. Visit Manx Credit Union Peel Road and find our newly extended opening hours online at mcu.im. Save with the Manx Credit Union. Every bit of savings really does make a difference. Manx Credit Union is licensed by the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
As your public service broadcaster, it's crucial for Manx Radio to mirror the Isle of Man. That's why we're asking the question, what matters most? We want to know your opinions of the nation station and island life. Your thoughts could play a vital part in shaping our news and current affairs programmes. Go now to manxradio.com to take part in our short online survey. And as a thank you for taking part, you'll be entered into a prize draw to win either dinner, bed and breakfast for two at the Mannin Hotel, a £100 heating or road fuel voucher from Ellen Vannin Fuels, or a 12-month family pass for Groudle Glen Railway. What matters most? Take part now at manxradio.com.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
16 minutes now before 1. Just because you may not need a licence for a mobility vehicle, says Mark, doesn't mean you can use it on public highway while over the limit. You can be prosecuted for drink driving on a bicycle or a horse, but you don't need a licence for those either. For that point. And also, Howard just said on Oral-B fluoride toothpaste, it says don't use, children under 6 shouldn't use it. Well, the issue with fluoride toothpaste is, I think what they say is don't swallow. So you brush your teeth, and you can buy this very high fluoride stuff, which I think you can also get on prescription, a high concentrate of fluoride, but you brush your teeth, you don't swallow it. In general, I think fluoride is safe. I mean, unless you take gallons of the stuff, but don't swallow toothpaste or other dental hygiene problems. But anyway, the choice is yours, as it is at the moment. We've only got chlorine in our wallpaper, in our water, not fluorine. Crikey. It goes on, doesn't it? Do you want the 67 gents toilets, or shall we look at something else? Perhaps, because I'm wading through lots and lots of questions today. Friday is always a good way to get through the questions on Mannin Line. And maybe you got one of them. Thanks also to what children on the island need is a dentist. My son is 5 and has never seen a dentist. My 10-year-old has seen a dentist once. Maybe we should put some of the money into the Red Arrows coming and give it to children's health care. That would be crossing budgets, wasn't it? I think the Red Arrows are paid for by... Are they paid for by business? Are they sponsored in another way? Anyway... You can tell that the Queen's coming by the number of DIY painters and carpet fitters at the governor's mansion. I bet the whole place smells of fresh paint. They used to say, didn't they? With the Queen thought, our Lord of Man thought that the whole world smelt of fresh paint because everywhere she went, everywhere smelt of fresh paint. Any news on the horse tram updates? Is it worth booking to come over to ride on them? Says Tony. Well, they are running, except it's just your halfway horse tram at the moment, Tony. But the experience is there. Steve's on now. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Andy. How are you doing? All right.
Good, thanks, yeah.
Good. Just ringing up regarding the statement from Balacameen regarding the toilets being closed or refused for children to go to.
Yeah.
I think it's absolutely disgraceful and archaic. Young ladies grow up very, very quickly nowadays. And to be refused permission to look at the hygiene problems and everything else is disgraceful. What age are we living in? When you have a male teacher refusing a young lady, she cannot go to the toilet. What state are we in?
Well, as you say, the thing is, there's going to the loo, and obviously young women will start their periods, menstrual cycle and what have you, and the last thing they want is unwanted attention and attention being drawn to it, Steve.
It's like putting a star on the head, Andy, and saying, ha, and the abuse and the bullying they will receive from that could lead possibly to mental illness, bullying, what have you. It's totally wrong.
What do you think's behind this, Steve?
I think it's a lack of control by the school teachers. It's passing the buck again. They can't control them. There's a problem, allegedly, in the schools. They can't use the toilets at lunchtime because people are vaping in there. All you hear about is children getting on vapes now and what have you. Why can't the schools search the kids going in? I think the age for buying vapes is 16. I could be wrong. It should be 18. I don't know. If they found with a vape, they take it off and destroy it. It wouldn't last long for them to realise to children they couldn't take vapes into school. I mean, Steve,
you're old enough to know that there's always been shenanigans going on around toilets in schools. It used to be a crafty fag at the back at one time, right. Didn't it?
It did indeed.
We all know the great unspoken of, people threatened with pushing the head down the toilet. That's been going on forever.
Yeah. But again, it's just, let's instead of talking about something, let's deal with it. Vaping is a major problem on the island. Why can't the teachers or employ a security company to actually search the kids' bags going in? If they're underage and they've got a vape, destroy it. Very, very simple. Many, many years ago, when I ran Summerland for my sins, we had under 18s disco. And we used to have a lot of children turning up, consumed with alcohol and what have you. I introduced breathalyzers. Professional breathalyzers. The word got round, and sure enough, they thought it was a joke at first. But when they were barred from coming in, they soon realised it was serious. And it cut down on drunkenness and everything else from young people. So you have to be hard, but you have to be fair.
So, but again, the way that teachers enforce discipline has changed mightily over the past 50 years, Steve. That the old issue of a clip round the ear is completely out of the question nowadays. In fact, that's the reason the knit nurse has gone from schools, because touching a child's head was classed as assault.
Well, don't you think we've all gone soft, Andy? We've lost our values in life. Totally lost our values. The children, and we've lost a generation, 2 generations. What do the parents think of the people who are vaping and doing things and what have you? Where's the pride gone? I think it's awful, to be honest with you. Absolutely awful.
So you reckon the bottom of all this is the vapes?
Part of it as well, yes, I think that's part of it. I mean, that survey the Ballycameen head teacher did, he gave you X number of hours. Go a step further. What was the breakdown between male and female? You know, it's any excuse to get out of a classroom. You know, surely there's better ways of controlling it.
Have you got any sympathy for the teachers?
I have to a certain degree. I put a lot of it on parents, Andy. You know, gone are the days when many, many years ago, Friday night used to be give your child £5, £10 while you went to the pub. Now, you know, people don't seem to. Certain people have lost the values.
Okay, all right. Thanks for that, Steve.
As a concerned parent and grandparent, that is, Andy.
All right, appreciate that. Have a good weekend, Steve.
And you, Andy. Take care. Bye-bye.
Good to hear from you. We're on Mannin Line. We're open line through till 1 today. If you and again, lots and lots of messages in regarding what's happening with the toilets at Ballycameen. In that, at the moment, a student has to request permission from the teacher to go to, and will only be granted permission to go to the loo under certain circumstances. But just to reiterate, young women have additional problems, additional side to their life than people just going to the loo. And that's something certainly that Ballycameen has been right at the front of. In fact, the head of sixth form, Richard Carron, years ago when we were doing Mannin Line, it was brought up by one of the students. He was paying for hygiene products out of his own pocket. That was the head of sixth form because he recognised what the problem was. Period poverty is a big problem amongst young women. So it's a many-sided coin. This is a very nuanced situation, and we want to get to the bottom of it as effectively as we can. It, of course, is in the hands of the head teacher at Ballycameen, and we wish him well in sorting the whole thing out. As Castletown residents, can't we use public toilets as the commissioners close them because they're scared by the young children, says Southern Andy. So that sort of problem there. Thanks also. Fluoridation's part of the World Health Organization's mass medication agenda. I think they're trying to create a zombie apocalypse, says Desmond. Starting where? Perhaps on the Isle of Man. You don't know, do you? Growing up, I lived in an area where there was fluoride in the tap water. I never drank it because of the taste. Don't change the water on the Isle of Man. I love the water here. And Tony's on now. Hi, Tony.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that comment. You know, why would we globally medicate everybody for a small proportion of children who need help, all right? So that's madness. So they need to do what has been told them before, but they did keep ignoring because it isn't the answer they want, and that is to give the children a tube of fluoride toothpaste, which they can rub on their gums if they need to, or give them some fluoride tablets or paint their teeth. Whatever it is, but you don't need to put it in the water because that's just a three-ring circus. Second thing, you mentioned before or assistance for somebody first-time buyers, and you noted that the time limit was 5 years on the Isle of Man.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not against this at all, but I want to know from the government and its many departments why every one of the living assistants or anything else are all different. Some are 10 years, some are 10 years residents, some are 5 years. There's no consistency at all across the whole of the Isle of Man in any of the housing.
All right, have a good weekend, Tony. Thanks for being with us today. That's it for Mannin Line. Back on Monday with Laurie Hooper and Alex Allenson.
WINT. 60 years serving you as the nation's station. This is Manx Radio.
The Manx minimum wage has been in existence for over 2 decades. It was a development that followed a similar move in the UK, but it was contentious over here. Could businesses afford to pay it? David North was Minister for what was then Trade and Industry.
When the minimum wage bill went through the House of Keys, we went out to 106 organisations and companies, and we had many responses of varying nature. And this figure has been decided upon based on the responses that we got from those organisations.
Some organisations must have been desperately worried about the prospect of a fairly high minimum wage level. Did they get their message across?
Yes, and in fact, if you look at this, £4.10 means from the average wage earnings on the island that 5% of the population earn less than the proposed £4.10 if the minimum wage regulations are approved by Tynwald. And that members accept those regulations. Government is very much in favour of a minimum wage act, and we've been working towards this with the approval of Tynwald, and the actual figure at this stage we think is a sensible one.
Surely those people in the House of Keys and Legislative Council who think that £4.10 is too low are going to be peppering you with requests that the committee look at this.
Oh, absolutely. I'm on a no-win situation on this one at all. Once the initial rate has been set, there is provision in the regulations for a committee of 5 people, which from a chairman, independent chairman, 2 from the employers and 2 from the employees, and they will decide. Now, if members decide next year, they don't have to meet every year. I think the regulations say something like from time to time they would meet.
But some people who want, say, £6 minimum level,
well, they may well
asking every session.
They may well put a motion to Tynwald quite soon. If they're approved by Tynwald next week, they may well do something early in the new year.
Part of island life for 60 years. This is your Manx Radio.